right, ladies and gentlemen, how y'all feeling today? Come on, you can do better than that. Well, welcome. Well, there's no place I'd rather be, as I say, than right here, right now, with all of you, the last of the true gladiators. So by a show of hands, just to make sure that I'm in the right room, how many business owners do we actually have in here today? Okay, several. Everybody else is just curious or afraid. That's okay. So they say, and I like to start off with the statistics here, is that 50% of all businesses are out of business in 2 years. Over 80% are out of business and gone between 5 and 7 years. And a staggering 96% are out of business by 10. And about 1% ever sell, let alone for a profit. So how many of you, the business owners in the room, have made it past that 2-year curse? All right, excellent. How many people have survived 5? Excellent, excellent. Who's in the elite and has made it to the 10-year mark? Wow, and how about beyond? Wow, beyond 10 years. So yeah, I'm in the right spot for sure. So they say, of course, that like the gladiators of old and in the past, the longer you survive, the more likely you are to die. And that's exactly why I'm here today, of course. And my name's Anthony Palmucci, and I am the founder and director of coaching at Thinking Without Restrictions, a leadership and development coaching firm headquartered on the Jersey Shore. And my goal today is simple, to kind of take you backstage and behind the curtain to what I've been doing in building the TWR blueprint for growing agencies in the channel. And in conjunction with Intellisys, this blueprint has created more millionaires in this industry than anything else. How's that sound?
Amazing.
So, you know, I think today I'll flip the script, as I like to say, and begin with the end in mind. And it's really the whole point of the topic today. And it's the difference between success and excellence. And like I said, I'll begin with a little infotainment just to kind of work on your subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is 30,000 times more powerful. So the goal today is for you guys to remember as much of what I talk about as possible. So of course, please take notes if you feel the need. And at the same time, we're going to start with that infotainment and a story. Oh, all right. Wrong show. So, you know, they say that the greatest basketball coach of all time was John Wooden. And he was stated as saying, or known as saying, and never talking about winning to his team or to his coaches, because he felt that winning was just a byproduct of doing the right reps and, you know, striving for that personal excellence as opposed to focusing just on winning. And I don't know if you've ever thought about it. Well, I do. I encourage my clients to do the same and focus on that as well. I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but success and excellence are often opposing ideals. You know, being successful does not necessarily mean that you'll be excellent, and being excellent doesn't necessarily mean you'll be successful. And, you know, by definition, success is about achieving or attaining cultural goals that elevates one's importance in the society in which he or she lives. Excellence, on the other hand, is the pursuit of quality and effort in one's work, whether the culture recognizes it or not. The saying is, you know, success is granted to a few, but is the dream of the multitudes. Excellence, on the other hand, will always cost you everything, but is the most rewarding and valuable ideal. So I always ask my clients, what drives you, success or excellence? Thank you. Thank you. So what drives you in your business? Success or excellence? What is your focus? Who wants more clients? Come on, even the Intellisys folks, you want more clients, right? Who wants more money? Okay, a little rhetorical questions. And who wants more freedom? Absolutely. And that's freedom really by that life by design to maybe create a business that runs with less of you in it directly, or just the time freedom to enjoy the things that give your life richness, meaning, and purpose. Now, who bought into that formula when you opened your business? That more clients and more money would equal freedom. This is right where that proverbial record scratch would be. And I feel you, as a business owner myself, it's probably the last thing that we get. So after millions of books that have been written on the subject by the best of the best, after programs across every university in the world, why is it that businesses are still failing to scale? Not just grow, but scale. And I can tell you, it's because they're focused on the wrong thing. They're focused on success and winning, as opposed to a commitment to excellence and a desire to grow, both personally and professionally, and focus on the right things, because that too would be a byproduct of growing your business. Would you guys mind if I share how I got here coaching business leaders to greatness? A little bit of, I'm a very unlikely candidate for those of you that know me, and a little bit of my background for this role that I'm in today. I actually graduated MIT at 19 years old. That is the Musicians Institute of Technology in Hollywood, California. You know, you get that mixture. You see people like, oh wow, that's impressive, and then there's other people like, what a dick. But yes, it was a Musicians Institute of Technology. My goal was tour the world, you know, make $1 million and date supermodels. And like the song says, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I'll let you guess which ones. I had a good run in the music business back in the day, playing, touring, and recording with several Rock and Roll Hall of Famers. I played with, let's see, it was a good time, that's for sure. I played with this guy for about a decade, Dee Snider, and we recorded a few albums. That was the last one that we did. You know, back in the day, we called it Rock Fantasy Camp. And Rock Fantasy Camp was, we would leave on a Friday to play a show in like somewhere in Europe or Scandinavia, and I'd be home for Sunday dinner. So it was amazing. It was like, that was my weekend job towards the end of the 10-year stint. I also had an opportunity to record on an Alice Cooper album in the 90s, which was a great time because it ended up, they like dropped my solo tracks for Slash, Joe Satriani, and a few others. But I did sing background vocals on that, so I did get the award as well. I also had the opportunity early on to record and play with major label acts on Atlantic, Geffen, and a few other record labels. Actually, for this guy, Gene Simmons from Kiss. He was the producer of many of the albums that I got to play on. So the irony of all of this and how I ended up here is kind of funny. These guys, all three of them, are amazing businessmen, if you know anything about them and what they've been able to create. And I didn't realize at the time what I was learning by hanging out with these guys back in the day. So it was a good time. Next, like many of you, I had that entrepreneurial seizure, and that was, if you recall, why am I working for this guy? I'm going to go out on my own, start my own business, and keep all the money. Does everybody remember having that seizure and how that worked out? So this is, I bought some property, I built this music school, and it's still going to this day. We have over 400 students, and it's actually run by millennials, if you can imagine, right now as we speak. But more importantly, without me in it. And I think that's also why I'm here and working with the partners, because I really do believe that a business, and this is my motto with my clients as well as for myself, is a business is a system that runs without you in it. So how many people are still directly in the business every single day of their business? So working with clients, I talk a lot about getting out so you can get back in. And what I've noticed in the channel, specifically in the aging community, is once they get out, there's explosive growth in their business. And it usually takes between I would say probably about 18 months before they start seeing that. But when you start working on the business instead of in it, that's what makes all the difference. It was during the building of that last business that I actually hired a coach myself. And that was the folks at Tony Robbins, because my goal was to have 50 of those. But that really is what led me here, coincidentally, on that path with all of you today. I had the opportunity to do my 10,000 hours of business coaching working alongside this guy, Tony Robbins. You know, we worked with professional athletes, we worked with performers of all stripes, captains of industry, Mark Benioff from Salesforce, and now $180 billion company. Crazy, right? The explosive growth. So it was a good time. We were trained by former Navy SEALs in peak performance, strategic intervention, and negotiation. And our business focus was, of course, on leadership, sales and marketing, and, of course, operations. That's when I landed in this community here in the channel, working with Stevie G, Stephen Gearhart, and a number of our top platinum partners at Intelisys. And Steve was really responsible early on for helping me understand this industry, and then he helped me build the blueprint that he's used now to go from 2 million to 4 million of recurring revenue as we speak. Danny Passacantilli, for those of you that don't know him, of course, very successful building his own brand as well, and now in the roll-up with Amplix, and the next level begins. They introduced me to this guy here. How many people remember Jay back in the day? So the introduction to Jay and Carol brought me into the mix at Intelisys, and I got that all access pass of seeing what the other side of this industry looked like through the eyes of a master agent. Now I'm sitting at the table with this guy and the leadership team, and we're really poised on the next thing to bring it all together. And as JD says, the best of both worlds. They say give them an experience, don't sell the concept. And I think that when I sit down with people in this forum, I really can't work with those business owners. So it's more about what would an engagement with me be like, or with our coaches at TWR. And we know that questions are the answer. So I'm going to start off by asking a few questions and then walk you through that blueprint that I was talking about earlier that's been very successful. I ask this question, it's always one of the early ones that I ask: what's your business worth without you in it? So again, by a show of hands of those business owners, what is your business worth without you in it? And I remember the conversation I had with Steve, and echoed with almost everybody I worked with, and they say the same thing: nothing. Without me, there would be no business. And then I just kind of pause and I wait for them to realize that the fact is that they are the stranglehold on their business probably, and seeing that next exponential growth happen. And then the punchline comes again, where I say the real left hook is that your business is actually worth 3 to 5 times more than the current valuation that's going out there now, if you're not in your business, and it can run and produce what it's producing without you being in it. So those are the conversations that we have. So the question really is, and I guess I'll go back to that conversation again with Stevie G. I said, who are you in your business? He's like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, you could be one of 3 things in your business. And he's like, okay, which one? I said, well, you're either the artist, and he goes, what do you mean the artist? And I said, to whom there would be no business if it wasn't for that person. You're great at making a widget, you're great at a product or a service, sales, right? Everybody in here, it's sales. And he goes, oh, well, that's me for sure. I'm the artist in my business. There's no question, because without me, there would be no business. And I said, okay. I said, what about this, the entrepreneur? He goes, oh, well, that's definitely me. I'm an entrepreneur, 100%. I go, well, not. I said, you know, opening a business is very entrepreneurial, but an entrepreneur is a completely different character. That is somebody who really thinks build, scale, and sell. And they have their number of what they're willing to sell their business for. And I asked him, I said, what's your number? And the number he gave me, within 18 months, he got about, let's see, 25% more was the offer, and he didn't take it. Now, I was coaching him through the whole time of what his life would look like if he did, and, you know, what's he gonna do after, you know, the sale, and, you know, how long can he have a non-compete for with some of the business that he already had. And he said, yeah, he didn't take it because, of course, he didn't know what he would do afterwards. So I said, okay, congratulations, you're not the entrepreneur, because the entrepreneur would have taken that money, especially if it was their number, let alone more, and they would have just built another business, maybe in a different industry. So clearly he was not the true entrepreneur. High degree of risk tolerance as well comes with the entrepreneur. And lastly, I said, how about the leader? And he goes, well, I'm the boss. I must be the leader. Everybody comes to me with their problems and I have to fix everything. I must be the leader. I said, well, the leader is really the Marcus Lemonis. Anybody remember that show, The Prophet? And that's somebody who, what does he say? Profit, what is it? People first, profit last, right? And process second. So what did I say? Process? People, thank you. Process and profit. And I said it's also the type like Jay Bradley. That's the person that enjoys having those conversations with the partners, enjoys having the conversations with the employees, and is always available to them. Well, he said, clearly that's not me, because that's one of the things I've noticed about the artist in this industry is that they're not connecting with their people the way that they could be in order to grow their businesses systematically. People do things successfully, but they don't do them very systematically. So after that was said and done, we decided that he was definitely the artist. And the crossroads there was, okay, then what are you going to do next? Do you become the leader? Do you become, and it just was not in Steve over the next 18 months. So he brought on an executive leadership team, a leader for one, and more of that entrepreneurial spirit in the rest of his staff that has really helped them scale the business. Because right now, as we speak, Steve is selling somebody something. And it's 6 days a week. The next question I like to ask is, what's your typical work day look like? Steve, another great example, I said, walk me through your day. And he said, well, I start making calls as soon as I go, no, before you get in the office, what's your day? He goes, well, you mean from like when I get up? I'm like, yeah, from when you get up. He gets up, he goes right for his phone. How many people here do that if you're really honest with yourself? Because he says, I want to make sure that the lights haven't gone out anywhere. And I say, okay, what do you do next? The second thing he does is he puts on the news. So, and then he puts on a pot of coffee. And then he starts banging out emails before he even goes to the office. So basically, he starts his day in reaction mode. And another shift that I've seen for exponential growth as a business owner is when you get out of reaction mode in your day and you get into creation and focusing on how to grow the business and not being so wound up throughout your day, putting out fires the entire time. So at TWR, we kind of walk people through a concept. Now, of course, the bullseye here is right there. That's the zone. Is anybody here old enough to remember the zone diet? Yes, the zone diet was you're only one meal away from being back in the zone. That's all I really got from the book. But the moral of the story is, what does this mean exactly? Well, a lot of people, we all do it. We spend on the outer rim of our time in the not urgent and not important. And this is kind of that area that I like to call no man's land. That's escapism. That is probably eating when you're not hungry. That is watching and binge Netflix. It might be fantasy football. It might be self-medicating after work, whatever it may be. Now, we all do it to some extent, but the question is, how long do you stay there? And what percentage? I can predict your problems if you're spending more than, say, I want to say 10, but let's say 20%. I can predict what your challenges are going to be. The next area is the urgent and not important area. And this is kind of, this is where the to-do lists are. The to-do list of time management is Chet Holmes. Anybody know who Chet Holmes is? The ultimate sales machine author. He used to talk about to-do lists are the death of time management. Now, it is true, people who get stuff done make lists, but the problem is prioritization, because all of us kind of don't eat the crust first, if you know what I mean. We don't start on the things that are going to really move the needle. We start on the things we can bang out to get done throughout the day. The next area, of course, is the urgent and important, and these are those things that emergencies. Your wife has a flat tire, your child's sick at school, you've just been told you're having a heart attack whatever it may be that wakes you up. Now, we know that this area that we find ourselves in sometimes isn't our fault, but with a little proactive approach, at least with the heart attack part, we can get around those things by having that proactive approach and not being in reaction all day. As we speak, Steve, not only is he working today, but he had back surgery on like 3 vertebrae in his neck from looking at the computer all day long. So the goal, obviously, is to stay out of distraction, delusion, and demand. So I help clients kind of find out where are they spending their time throughout the day. I usually don't tell them this. I just listen to how they walk me through the day to find out what they're really doing. And we track and trend that for a while until I kind of show them this and they start seeing it. And I ask them, and this was, oddly enough, how many people know Chuck Maish and have heard that name before? He was the executive coach here at Intellisys. Today is 6 years to the day that he passed away, oddly enough, 4/20. And he used to tell the clients, are you CEOing today? Which is exactly this. Are you staying in the zone and moving the needle, or are you just keeping yourself busy throughout the day? And we know as sales folks, sometimes it's easier to, straighten up our desks and do our files than it is to actually sit down and start doing the work. The next, in the form of a question, is what is your time worth? So, if everybody, if you want, take out your cell phone right now, but it's a really easy way of finding out. Take your annual salary, I won't ask you what it is or what you're making now, and divide it by 2,000. That's a 40-hour work week, 50 weeks. That's what you make per hour. And when I did this with Steve, it was over $1,500 an hour, which was crazy. And to use him again as the example, he goes into the office on Saturday to cut the checks for all his staff, all his independent contractors, all his subs. He does all that work on Saturday. I go, about how long does it take? And he said 4 hours. So that's $6,000. I said, what would it cost you to have a professional bookkeeper come in and do the exact same thing and clear all this off your calendar? And, we came up with about $200. So $200 a week versus $6,000. What a difference, huh? I talk to our clients a lot, and I learned this the hard way building my own business, the difference between leverage and delegation. It's really, obviously, from the PowerPoint, you can understand what I'm saying, but when I work with teams, what I talk about is building resourcefulness and not being a resource. Because if you're a resource in your business, then ultimately you're not really doing that leadership level thing. And you either need to become a leader or you need to find one. But the difference here is where you spend your time, and we all know the micromanager, very disempowering. We know that what promotes, in other words, create the resourcefulness in your team and you'll be surprised. Tell people what to do and you'll always be disappointed. Tell them what you want done and you'll always be pleasantly surprised. I don't know who said that. Maybe somebody could, who said that? I did, just now. Yeah. Oh. So the moral of the story is leverage is much different than delegation, but we all know how tough it is. And really, I think the number one challenge in leadership always is to get work done through others. How many leaders do we have in the room? And when we talk about that, they're the ones getting the work done, and it's very difficult to get work done through others. The next one is, and I asked this question today to a few people that are running agencies, very successful ones, and I said, how do you celebrate accomplishments both large and small? And I always kind of get that Scooby-Doo head tilt, like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Celebrate. I say, right after you close a deal, large or small, how do you celebrate? And they go, I don't. I just go right on to the next one, right on to the next thing. I was working with one of our agents in the community that had just recently gotten quite a large check for his business. And I said, how long did it last, that feeling? And he said 45 seconds before he realized that he wanted to get back in the game and do something. So we call this, in my business, destination addiction. And I'm no doctor, but I have definitely talked to many people that I could probably diagnose with that disease, which is really about always thinking about what's next instead of what's right in front of you. So I think a lot of what I do throughout the day and my coaches is bring people into the present moment so they could focus on what really matters, not what's next. Because that means that even if you were to sell your business for tens of millions of dollars, or you were to get to that next level in your life, and you're not celebrating those successes, that at the end of the day, the level of fulfillment will be very low. And what we talk about a lot is that success, or should I say achievement, is really a science, and fulfillment is more of an art. And I don't know what gives your life richness, meaning, and purpose, but I do ask a lot of clients, well, what are you going to do afterwards in the next chapter if you sell your business? And they have no idea. Their hobbies are work. I heard that today a few times. And I think to myself, this comes from the category of the things that are easy to do are also easy not to do. And that's why celebration is at the top of the list, because it's very easy to celebrate. Now, you don't have to have a party, but it's really about working on the subconscious mind and using the conscious mind to program the subconscious mind to realize what you're creating. And also, there's a QR code at the end. Definitely take it, because I'm going to send everybody here one of 3 different things that you ask for from what it is that we're working on right now. And maybe I'll even think afterwards what really fits everyone in this room. So, oh, by the way, this is what hangs in my daughter's room, this poster. And she looked at me the same way as my clients do. And I said, the things that are easy to do, that are easy not to do, like being on time. If you can't be on time, be early. And several other things. She likes that one. But at the end of the day, what I found is making a list of those things, like having conversations with your team, showing up for your one-on-ones, communicating with your spouse. Many things are easy not to do. Planning your day is very easy to do, but it's very easy not to do, and then to get caught up in the day. And then last but not least, do you have an exit strategy? As a business owner myself, when I was asked this question, I didn't even think about it, because I'm like, well, why am I growing this business long term? What is my goal? Do I want my family to take it? Is it going to be a for sale by business owner? What a FISBO, right, in the mortgage, in the real estate world? Or is it going to be the golden goose that just keeps going on and on and on? I haven't seen too many succession plans set up recently working with partners, and they don't talk about it much, but we do as we get into that and what that may look like. There was a study done, probably over the course of 3 decades by an Edward C. Banfield at Harvard University, and what he did was they studied what was the #1 predictor of upward social mobility through the classes, so from lower class to lower class to lower middle class to middle class and above. What was the #1 predictor of being able to scale through the different levels of, the classes? It was, of course, long-term thinking. Thinking long-term, not short-term. So I think a lot of what we do at TWR is get people really positioned to understand who they want to be as leaders, driving organizations, and also business owners, of long-term thinking and not getting into that area of just thinking short-term. Thank you for having me. If anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them now. I want to thank everybody for coming. Hit this QR code, and I'll send you all 3 things that are on there. I'm going to do a free webinar as well that I've been doing with a lot of the partners, walking them through the deeper processes of what we do at TWR. When we talk about building sales teams or creating resourcefulness in your teams, this is where we go in the webinar series as well, all free to Intellisys partners. So without further ado, thank you again, and I'll stick around for any questions or comments you might have. Thanks again.